thank all of you who have found time to be with us today. Thank you very, very much for your presence. The topic today is very, very important to almost all of us who have crossed 70 and are aging. And we know that it is so important that we need to understand, because sometimes we are confused with dementia, Alzheimer's, and all that. And nationally, there's a lot of misunderstanding about the issue. And that is why in some of the rural areas, older persons suffering from these are attacked, are regarded as witches, and are stereotyped. It is because of the lack of knowledge. And I'm very happy that today, COSROPIN, in partnership with our sister, is indeed bringing this topic to all of us, to educate us and to ensure that we in turn can educate other people so that older persons are no longer stereotyped. Of course, COSROPIN had lined up a lot of things for older persons during this period. Yesterday, we were in a rural community, one of the villages, to distribute food items to the people. And on Monday, we are going to have a rally in Abuja. And tomorrow being Sunday, we will make ourselves present in some churches to ensure that older persons are prayed for. So we have a lot of programs lined up for the whole month. We will continue to let you know about each of them as we get to it. Without further waste of time, I want to appreciate all of you and to thank you for your commitment and the fact that you have made out time to be at today's webinar. Thank you for being present. Over to you, the Secretary General and moderator of this program.
Thank you very much, President Senator Eze Ajoku. You're very welcome. Thank you for that intro. At this point, I want to quickly say that I joined the President to appreciate each and every one of us that is able to make it here this afternoon, and that I can tell you for sure that you are in for a very good ride. With us today is a very, very prominent person in the field of advocacy for Alzheimer. And we thought of getting all the professors and all the doctors and all the people, but from experience, we found out that those ones would always tell us from the medical point of view. So today you'll be listening to somebody who has had a first-hand experience, and many years, she has many years of advocacy behind her and many years of experience behind her. And she is going to lend us of that experience. The person I'm talking about is Mrs. Iyo Josephine Aneni, who is a former Minister of Women Affairs and Social Development of Nigeria. She trained both as an educationist and a lawyer. She is a passionate women's rights activist, an ardent politician, and an outstanding gem in the legal profession. She is a seasoned, result-oriented, dedicated, and experienced gender and development executive with exceptional experience both at national and international levels. Iyom Aneni has more than 40 years first-hand experience in diverse fields of legal, humanitarian, women and gender and political affairs in public and private spheres. Iyom Aneni was the chairman of the International Federation of Women's Lawyers from 1994 to 2001. She was a participant at the senior executive course of the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies, Kuru, Jos, in 2009, and a delegate to the National Conference 2014. She is currently the chairperson of the she's currently the chairperson of the Women Interest Group Forum of the African Bar. And that is AFBA, founder, chairman of Alzheimer Disease Association, co-founder, president of Women Foundation of Nigeria, WFN, and the founder, president of Nkata Ndi Inyom Igbo, NNIN. And she is my special personal mama. We welcome you to this time out with all of us. Thank you. You're very welcome, ma.
Thank you very much, Able Secretary, Pastor Victoria Onu, my very special daughter.
Yes.
I thank you for this platform to discuss my current and favorite passion now. Thank you for the introduction, and hearing what I have been, people may start wondering, what have I got to do with Alzheimer's disease? If you want me to go on, or you want to ask me specifically.
No, I think you should just give us a general intro. It's going to be a very interactive session.
Okay, great.
So give us a general intro, then I would open the floor for questions and answer.
Great. Yeah, I hope everybody's hearing me very well.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Yes, from my bio, you would know, or you would assume that I should not be here today. What do I have with Alzheimer's and dementia? But you know, in life, things happen to change the course of your, the trajectory of one's life. I had a very, very personal experience and encounter with Alzheimer's disease. And I decided that, I've done enough for women, I've done enough for the legal profession. For the rest of my life, I would dedicate it to advocating for Alzheimer's and dementia. And so that is what I'm doing now. You can just briefly summarize my intro as a passionate advocate for Alzheimer's disease and dementia. Yes, many years ago, I didn't know what Alzheimer's was. I had never heard about it, I'd never experienced it. And in those years, my mother came down with an illness that nobody knew what it was. The nearest diagnosis we had then was that she was maybe suffering from senile dementia, having had a series of accidents, and one very bad one that, made her have amnesia immediately after the accident. That one was, so the doctor said that the trauma in her head could have caused senile dementia for her. And so there was not much we could do. We just lived with her, trying to make her as comfortable as possible, because there was no medication they could give us to reverse the senile dementia diagnosis or to make her better. We just saw her slipping away gradually and very painfully to us who are watching her, who are very close to her, until she finally passed away. We didn't even have the knowledge that we could have asked the a pathologist to look at her brain and see, what happened. We didn't have that idea. So she was buried. Then after some years, my junior brother, very junior brother, it's like my son because I'm very many years older than him, started being ill. And he lived in Germany. So he had the best medical attention, care, investigations, and all that. So he was going in and out of hospital for one investigation or the other. Then at a point, a doctor said, this could be Alzheimer's. And we said, what is Alzheimer's? We didn't know what it was. And, we are very religious in this part of the world. And we said, even though we don't know what is Alzheimer's, whatever it is, we reject it in Jesus' name. And we were praying for him to get better. And sometimes he would get better and be out of hospital and be able to function. And we thought, our prayers had been heard and, he has been cured. We didn't know that Alzheimer's is a very slow developing illness. It is progressive, it can be slow. And there are times, the person may look as if he's okay. And then it comes back again, just like that, on and off. And during this period of its progression, which can take like 10, 15, 20 years, the person can be functioning to a certain extent. But by the time it is clear, it is obvious, any doctor can say for sure that this is Alzheimer's. It has got to the stage where there is nothing, the person, it is obvious, the behavior has changed. The person cannot do many things anymore. And you will know that there is a serious, serious problem. And of course, from that time of diagnosis, you just be counting the days because it could be any time from that day. It could last up to 5 years or 6 years. And in the case of my brother, from the time we got the clear diagnosis that he was suffering from Alzheimer's form of dementia, it lasted like 3 years and he passed on. So having taken care of him personally as a primary caregiver and on a 24-hour basis, I noticed the progression, I noticed the change in behavior, I noticed all the symptoms, and I could start with hindsight, relating it to what I saw in my mother many years before. And I said, oh, that means my mother had Alzheimer's disease also. And if that is the case, everybody must hear about it. The whole family must hear about it. All my children, grandchildren, you must learn about Alzheimer's. Of course, again, as religious as we are, some of my family members say it's not their portion. It will never happen to them. And I say, amen. I pray it doesn't happen. But knowledge is power. It is good to have the knowledge. It is good to prepare. In case it does happen, it doesn't come as a surprise. You know what to do. By the time, if I'm going to have it, I will recognize when it is coming. Then I will arrange my affairs and make it easy for those who will have the burden of looking after me at that time, and also make it easy for me, if I do have it, to make sure that, I get the best care possible. So that's my personal experience, and that is why I have gone to study everything that is, every knowledge, gain every knowledge that is available about Alzheimer's, preaching or spreading the knowledge to people around me. I founded a foundation called Alzheimer's Disease Foundation. And that is what I'm working with now. So every other thing I've been doing all my life is now at the back burner. On my front burner of active living and activities is the Alzheimer's Disease Foundation, and it is about creating awareness of that disease. I now live in a rural community, and there are a lot of elderly people in that community, in the village. And I hear stories of people who have passed on and the symptoms they exhibited before they passed on. I heard verdicts that were passed on them. You hear them saying, oh, they were very wicked. They did a lot of bad things. And so it's like karma catching up with them. Some would say, oh, well, she was a big witch. It was witchcraft that she suffered before she died, and so on. And even presently, I have so many of them who I can see. I'm not a doctor. I cannot give a diagnosis of Alzheimer's. I make sure that I'm aware of that, and I tell people. It is only a trained, experienced doctor that can give that diagnosis that this is Alzheimer's form of dementia. But the symptoms that that the person exhibits, you can know that the person, of course, if somebody has dementia, the person, you will know, because dementia will affect their memory, the dementia will affect their cognitive abilities. They may not be able to do things that they are supposed to do, simple things like, finding their way back to their homes if they do wander off or go anywhere, cooking, driving, writing, reading, all that. We know that there's a problem. And if you notice that in your relative, the best thing to do is to go to a doctor. And the doctor will carry out some tests to determine, memory tests and other tests. There are tests like CT scan. We did all that for my brother. MRI, many now that we start indicating or show them, yes, that there's something wrong with this person's brain, because Alzheimer's is a specific disease that affects the brain. And it is that disease that causes dementia. So there's a difference between Alzheimer's and dementia, even though people use them interchangeably. Alzheimer's is a disease of the brain, a progressive disease of the brain. And there is no cure for now for it. There is no medication for it. But the symptoms can be managed with medications, depends on what. And then again, I have noticed that there is no, everybody's dementia is different from the other person's dementia. What shows up first in one person may not be what will show up first in the other person, but the symptoms are common. You can find that they are, there's a commonality in the symptoms that they will eventually exhibit, but no two people, journey the same. The journey for everybody is a bit different. It's like, so you can't say that everybody that has Alzheimer's must exhibit all this, or everybody that has dementia must exhibit all these behaviors. Then sometimes somebody may have dementia and not have Alzheimer's, because as we are told, there are over 40 types of dementia. There are over 400 types of dementia. Many things that can cause dementia. Things as simple as having an accident and having a head trauma can cause dementia. Having a stroke can cause dementia. Simple things like that can cause dementia. So it is not everybody that has dementia you will say it's Alzheimer's. But everybody that has Alzheimer's disease will also have dementia. And they may have one or two types of dementia. So you find it mixed dementia. Because if you're looking at the symptoms, for instance, of Lewy body dementia, and you are looking at the symptoms of vascular dementia, and you may find that that person that has an Alzheimer's diagnosis is exhibiting those symptoms also. So which means that it is possible for somebody to have more than one kind of dementia. And in that case, you say the person has a mixed dementia. The point I'm trying to stress here is that Alzheimer's is a form of dementia. Alzheimer's can cause dementia, but not everybody that has dementia has Alzheimer's. Can be any other form of dementia. And it is interesting that why this is older persons awareness month for older persons. Alzheimer's and dementia will normally show forth in elderly people, but people should not be afraid. It is not every older person that will have dementia. I know the patron of my Nkatandi Nyom Igbo association. Her name is Ezinne Ezajoko, the mother of the president of COSROPIN. She is 102 or 3 years old now, and she has not got dementia. But you may find somebody who is 60 that has dementia. So it is not a rule, hard and fast rule that once you are old, you will have dementia. No, you may not have dementia in your lifetime at all. So people should not be afraid. Because I find that it is fear that makes people want to deny coming out or coming forth or going to seek help and assistance. And when the person now has dementia and is unable to assist themselves, their close relations who are supposed to look after them are also ashamed because they don't want to be stigmatized. They don't want people to say, oh, this thing is running in their gene. You know how we stereotype in our communities people, it's running in their genes, so don't let people know that your mother has it. So they lock up their mother in a back house, in a room. They don't take care of the woman. You find that abuse of elderly people, is so much by the people who are supposed to be the people who love them most and who should be caring for them. Those are the people who abuse them. And if that elderly person has the double jeopardy of having dementia, the abuse is even, magnified. There's such an abuse. And this is something, again, we should be looking at, in terms of the rights of the elderly person, in terms of the rights of the person with dementia, because they have a right to live with dignity and they have a right to die in dignity. So all those aspects are, what we are advocating in Alzheimer's Disease Foundation, ADF, and making sure that we throw more light on it so that people, there's nothing to be ashamed of it, when I wanted to come out plain with, come out public with my own situation, I had a lot of advice. Don't. Can you bear what the stares of people? Can you bear what people will say? I said, what will they say? I'm not God. If my mother has dementia, also, they say it will run in, they will say it's running in your family. I said, okay, let it be running. We're running after it. There's no problem. And it's not only other people, even my immediate, my siblings, they didn't support me at the beginning, but now they are supporting me. At the beginning, they didn't. They thought it's a very private, personal thing that we shouldn't, it's not an information for the public. We shouldn't share it with the public. I didn't believe that. Old age is a risk factor. If somebody is going to have dementia, it is likely that the person will be an elderly person. But for Alzheimer's disease, there is what we call early onset Alzheimer's disease, early onset. And it has been found that people as young as 28, 30 can have it. When my brother had his, he was less than 40. He had early onset Alzheimer's when he started having the symptoms, when it started coming on. And it took some years before it was very obvious that this is definitely Alzheimer's disease. It is not depression. It is not whatever he thought. It was not eye problem, because you see, it affects the sight, it affects the ear, it affects the ear hearing. He wasn't hearing well. He was going for treatment for ear operations in the ear. He was had an eye problem because he couldn't, he had, the thing comes with, it's not that the person is blind, but they cannot assess, they cannot see well. They cannot, things don't look normal to them, or they will be seeing, like he used to tell me that, he sees something like a box in front of him, or he sees a black hole, all that type of thing. He wants to walk, for instance, and he's hesitating. And I said to him, why are you hesitating? He said, there's a hole in front of him. I said, no, there's no hole. Come. I hold his hand and walk through, and he sees that there's no hole. It is all the tricks that this thing plays on the individual, so they don't have, they have, problems with space, with time. They don't know the time. Sometimes they are awake, they sleep during the day, and then during the night, they are awake. They are very active during the night. And of course, if they do that, it means that the person looking after them is not able to sleep also. the medical people will call that one sundowning. So there's a way of how you can deal with that. If the person starts sundowning and they don't, you make sure you keep them very active and awake during the day, so that their clock, will be reset, and so on and so forth. I will stop here because the moderator has said it's going to be interactive, and I would actually appreciate to have an interaction, because I know that a lot of people have experienced it in one way or the other. If they are in the health sector, they would have seen it in practice. Even at home, maybe they have uncle, older relations, So I would prefer to have an interactive session. So I will stop here, and I'm ready to take the answers, the questions, and try my best in my own experience to give the answers.
Okay, thank you so much. We've learned a lot, even at this time, even though I would like to ask some very specific questions before we continue. And that is Alzheimer's disease hereditary?
I will not say it is hereditary per se, but it can, somebody can get it from the genes of the parents. That there is something that they have discovered that causes it, and it has a name, which I don't want to start, talking now. So there are some genes that the parents will have. Everybody has it, both parents will have it. But when you get from this parent and from the other parent becomes predominant, then it can be, you can say that in that case that it is genetic. There are some people who have parents who had Alzheimer's and they never had it. And there are some persons whose parents did not have Alzheimer's and they had it because they inherited, that specific gene from the mother and from the father, join them together to form the one that can cause Alzheimer.
Okay, so, thank you very much.
I won't use
we
the word.
A few questions coming in, and I would like us to take it before we continue. Can we take them? There's one here saying, "Dear Mrs. Aneni, you are superb in describing your experience with Alzheimer. You are doing excellently well in describing this disease entity, even as a layperson. Your classification is excellent, and I appreciate your interest and service to humanity. You've done a lot of research and have adequately equipped yourself for the NGO you have chosen to propagate. Congratulations, very good seminar." Somebody else is paying you compliments and at the same time asking questions. It says, and it's coming from our very own Board of Trustee member, Dame May Ikoku. She says, Inyom, very interesting. You said that Alzheimer has no cure. Is dementia curable?
Yeah, there are some. Remember, I said there are many forms of dementia. Yeah. There are many forms of dementia, and there are some of them that can be cured, that are reversible, depending on the cause. If, for instance, somebody has a head trauma and has dementia, and is handled by competent neurosurgeons, it can be repaired and the dementia will go. There are some dementias that can be cured. It is the Alzheimer's type of dementia that I said is incurable. a cure has not been found for it. A lot of research is going on as we speak. Research into what is the cause. Nobody can tell you right now specifically that this is the cause of it. We have risk factors of, risk factors that can cause Alzheimer's disease. Being older than 65, sometimes younger, like in my brother's case, early onset Alzheimer's, a family history of the disease, maybe some people in the family have had it. There is a family that everybody in that family has had it. And there are other families that maybe it will just be one person that has had it. Then what I said before, inheriting the genes from the parents. Unhealthy lifestyle. People who smoked a lot, drank a lot, don't sleep a lot, do not sleep a lot. All those unhealthy lifestyles can cumulatively affect the brain, can cause dementia, accidents. Now, there's something that they're calling MCI, mild cognitive impairment, can also end up being the full-blown dementia that we're talking about. And so many other risk factors.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. You dealt with that so wonderfully. I would like to read something here that Alzheimer Foundation of America wrote concerning the stages of Alzheimer, as it's, the different stages, because I think that is what is actually scary, because somebody like my father had dementia, had Alzheimer, and we had no idea that he had Alzheimer. And until his death, it was after his death, I was able to look back and say, oh my goodness, that was Alzheimer. And we didn't know what to do with it. We didn't know how to handle it. And I think that's one of the things you need to talk to us about. How can we handle somebody who we found out has Alzheimer, and whether it can be handled at home. While we pause on that question, I would like to just read this. It says, this is a very subtle stage, usually not identified by either the impaired person or the family as the beginning signs of the disease. Subtle changes in memory and language, along with some confusion occurs at this time. The family usually denies or excuses the performance or deficiencies at this stage. And then he says, well, some of the symptoms for stage 1 is forgetfulness, memory loss, impaired judgment, trouble with routines, lessening of initiative, disorientation of time and place, depression, fearfulness, personality change, apraxia, that is forgetting how to use tools and equipment, and anemia, forgetting the right words or name of a person, anomia. And then the second stage, they said, I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
Go ahead, read it all. That's what it is. I can't add more than that. Since you also
it says the second stage as stage 1. As stage 1, it rapidly moves to stage 2, and there is usually a particular significant event which forces the family and the impaired person to consider that something is really, really wrong. At this time, they usually go to a doctor to diagnose the problem. Poor short-term memory, wandering, that is searching for home, language difficulties, increased disorientation, social withdrawal from social activity, more spontaneity, fewer inhibitions, agitation, restlessness, fidgeting, pacing up and down, developing inability to attach meaning to sensory perceptions, taste, touch, smell, sight, hearing, inability to think abstractly, severe sleep disturbance and sleeplessness, convulsive seizures may develop, repetitive actions and speeches, hallucination, delusions. All these comprise of stage 2, and then stage 3, which is called the final stage. And then this stage is the terminal stage and may last for months or years. The individual will eventually need total personal care. They may no longer be able to speak or recognize their closest relatives. Little or no, so these are the symptoms: little or no memory, inability to recognize themselves in a mirror, inability to recognize themselves in a mirror, no recognition of family or friends, great difficulty communicating, difficulty with coordinated movements, becoming emaciated in spite of adequate diet, complete loss of control of all body functions, increased frailty, complete dependence. Oh my goodness. My father didn't get to this stage before, he died, because of course he wondered, but he had a fall that led to his death. He went into coma and died. So we didn't actually get to this stage. I think from what I'm reading, he got to stage 2 of Alzheimer. It doesn't sound like good news, especially since there is no cure. Okay, we actually have some doctors online, and we have some people who want to take questions. So I would take some of them now. Can we take on, you can unmute Dr. Olufemi. Welcome. Thank you for coming in. You're very welcome.
Thank you very much, ma'am. In fact, it's as if I'm dementia. I'm seriously excited that Madam can talk. We have met and we have spoken, and I'm so excited the way.
Olowo Kere
of Ibadan,
Tony Aneni Geriatric Center.
How are you, ma'am?
Yes.
Very good.
How are you, ma'am? How are you, ma'am?
Well, thank you.
You have been wonderful, and I must say that this is exactly what we have been advocating.
Center active. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma. Thank you, ma. So I'm Dr. Lokere. I'm the director of the Geriatric Center in Ibadan. And I personally want to appreciate you for this lucid explanation. And the way you have taken it, in fact, I must say that very little to just had. And you have really dissected it. You have explained it that every layman who is listening will have proper understanding. And one area I'm excited about is the fact that you have made people to understand that we have reversible dementia. And quite a lot of people don't know that. And that's why when people present to us, we try to do some investigation. Let me give you an example. You've given some example. One of the examples is the fact that older people with hypothyroidism, I mean, you see them very slow, sluggish, and they begin to wonder. People, they begin to have some of the symptoms you have mentioned. I don't want to go into that again. And by the time they come, we do what we call the thyroid stimulating hormone. We do their thyroid function test. And by the time you do this this test, you discover that they have hypothyroidism. And no sooner you start the treatment, before you know it, you just discover that quite a lot of them began to come back. And just like you have said, that is a reversible form. Sometimes some people that have vitamin B12 deficiency, which is also have been found to cause it, once you start treating them, you discover that those symptoms begin to wane down and they begin to come back to themselves. And so quite a number of that, I don't want to, because I know many other people who want to have some things to say, just to let you know that. And also the mild cognitive impairment that you mentioned, is also very important. The only thing to differentiate is that you see that those people, they will have cognitive impairment, just like you have rightly said. Tell them tell them how will you comb your head. They could have agnosia, they could have apraxia. That is, they tell them how will you comb your head, they can't show you. What is this? They can't recognize it. But those kind of people, when you talk about problems with behavior, they don't have it. When you talk about what do you call it, activities of daily living, it's intact. So their activities of daily living, both basic activities, grooming, combing your hair, and doing many other things, those things are intact. And the instrumental activities of daily living, using phone, signing check, going to the market, doing all those things, they are intact. And so they don't have any behavioral problem apart from the cognitive impairment, maybe some memory impairment, just like you have rightly mentioned. Those ones, we term them as mild cognitive impairment, using some tests that we can do to assess them, which is what we call mini-mental state examination. And those people gradually, they could progress, like we have rightly alluded to. They could progress if care is not taken to develop a full-blown dementia. So there are so many other things, but I think for anybody listening on this platform, you have been able to make people, in fact, if a doctor is saying it, if you have not managed it, if you have not experienced it, if you have not been involved, sometimes you will just be explaining and doing some theoretical explanation. But you have brought in your personal experience of this condition, and it has really made, drive home the point. So I want to once again appreciate you and for this good work, and you should just continue. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lomokere. I really want to appreciate you for always tuning in into our Health Watch series. Thank you so much. We have another specialist online, and he's a brain pathologist and a member of Alzheimer disease organization. His name is Professor Babatunde Olasode. And you're very welcome. Could you please unmute and talk to us? And please just keep it to 3 minutes. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Actually, I stumbled on this just by mistake. Someone just told me that the medical women elders are doing this. And I found it very, very interesting. I want to appreciate the presenter, Mrs. Anini, for a very good job in making it very simple and her advocacy. But from working in this field, as you said, I examined the brain of people that die of Alzheimer's and other causes. There are 3 things that we must understand very simply, because this is not an academic lecture, it's for people to understand that we must distinguish memory loss, dementia,